Okay, so where did RJ get his morpher from? Hi everyone and welcome to another Ranger Rant episode. Of course, everyone knows I'm Archer 9234. Today I'll be talking about the Power Rangers Jungle Fury episode, Friends Don't Fade Away. Now this episode, it adapts Geki Ranger episode 25. Although it does use the basic plot of the episode, it doesn't follow the story in any which way. The main reason why is because this was actually a two-parter episode in Geki Ranger. It was actually starting from episode 24 but we used the second half only, where we introduce RJ as the Wolf Ranger. Now the episode begins at the villain lair, and the villains finally locate the last overlord for the trio. Daishi originally ruled over the three overlords, but since Daishi is now incarnated inside a human, the third overlord didn't want to follow his orders because he's frankly basically weak and treats him basically as an inferior person. At this point, he is actually correct because they don't really have Daishi doesn't really have the Rinki power, or in Jungle Fury's case, the Zokadu power. Now, in Jungle Fury's case, with the energy fighting styles that were used in Geki Ranger, Jungle Fury basically dumbed them down. That's the reason why they're kind of convoluted and confusing in Jungle Fury, where in Geki Ranger, they explain everything to try to get you as best as possible to understand each of the fighting energy styles that the characters and villains use. So after a little bit of a fight, Daishi is thrown off the throne, and the third overlord takes command and sends a new monster after the Rangers called Monkey Kiwi. I assume the name of the monster is actually kind of a reference to New Zealanders, because they're always called, their nickname is Kiwis. Now this episode also does continue on from the previous episode's main plot, where RJ was personally fighting Daishi in the previous episode, and Daishi's energy attack for some reason screwed up RJ's animal spirit, and he couldn't keep it in control. Obviously they had to do this because they had to use the footage and explain how the Geki Ranger footage with Go becoming a wolf, because in Geki Ranger, Go was becoming a wolf because he was using a forbidden move which caused him to transform every night with a full moon or whatever during that time. While in RJ's case, he was Daishi screwed up his animal spirit, which kind of in Jungle Fury's storyline, it doesn't really make any sense, because the problem is, if Daishi can screw up RJ's animal spirit, why can't he screw up anyone else's spirit? Lily, Theo, and Casey should be even more of a disadvantage because they're basically trainees, rookies, whatever you want to call them. So after we return to Jungle Karma Pizza, we have this little fun moment where people are not having their shoes on and whatnot. Although I'm confused of what was Fran doing on the floor with flour. I assume it fell or something. But it looked like at first when the camera panned onto her, it looked like she was like cooking on the floor. And then we had this fun moment where RJ walks in and he has his tattered clothes and his ruined pants when he transformed into the wolf, which is kind of weird because later on in the episode he transforms into the wolf, but his clothes are perfectly fitting over himself with the claws and mask. After a little bit, after RJ finally changes his clothes, he stumbles onto a news report where they said an unknown monster had attacked people with claws and stuff and had damaged pretty much property and stuff. And RJ assumed that he was the one who did it when he was transformed into the wolf animal spirit, because he did fight the Rangers. That means he pretty much could have been doing anything and without his knowledge. So RJ decides to leave the headquarters and try to go into his trance and try to train to get this all fixed up without the Rangers trying to help him, because they have to focus on the main, protecting the city, protecting the planet, same old story. So he decides to, and he only tells Fran and decides to leave on. Now, conveniently, he does run into Monkiwi, and he finds out that Monkiwi was the one who originally caused all the damage to the property, and it was assaulting people. So he tries to fight off the Monkiwi, but since he has no Ranger powers at this point, and since his animal spirit is screwed up, he has no chance against him, so Monkiwi throws him around. At this point, the Rangers are alerted, of course, from the alert system inside the base, and stumbles upon RJ's fighting them. Now, the weird thing I find about it with Jungle Fury is that now Casey's bike was the replacement for the Battleizer for the season, because at this time it was temporarily, it was supposed to be the ending of the series. It had lower budget than usual. What bothers me the most is that the bike was never used, and in this particular moment, it was like used for 2 seconds. They did this effect shot. He flips over the railing and then lands, and then they never used the bike again. So what was the point of Casey using the bike if he was never intended to use it in a fight? So it kind of made the bike pointless. After a little bit, RJ loses control of his animal spirit again. The Rangers find out that the wolf they fought in the previous episode, that it was RJ, so they're trying to figure out what to do. They don't want to hurt him, so they have to try to grab him and try to force him back into transforming into basically himself. After, when they return to the base, RJ finally explains to the other three that Daishi has injured my animal spirit. I have no control over it. If I keep transforming into him, I'll be permanently stuck as the wolf spirit if I don't get this under control. So while RJ and everyone are discussing what to do with the animal spirit problem, we return to the villain lair and we see the weird usual suck up of the other two overlords that are obviously weaker than the third one, and they're like acting all like, "You did great," and I'm like, Monkiwi didn't do anything. All he did was retreat and let RJ attack the Rangers, and he did a better work rather than him. He basically fled, and everyone was acting like, "Oh, it was so amazing." I thought it was hilarious. And it was like, Daishi and Camille were like, are you kidding me? He didn't do anything. So after a little bit, Monkiwi finally attacks the city again, and the Rangers are unfortunately have to be forced to leave RJ in his condition, while Fran has to look over. Since unfortunately Fran pretty much has nothing to do except for, help RJ refill his water. Now here comes the problem I had with this episode. Now when RJ transforms into the wolf again and tries to attack Fran, she gives this little dinky little speech where of course it's trying to be an emotional moment, but it was so fast and so simplistic, it magically cured RJ of his wolf powers. It really felt underwhelming. The main problem, though, because of this episode being kind of like lopsided in quality, was good for the most part, but then there were some places that were bad. It was because at this point in the series, they were already in the middle of the writer strike, where the majority of the writers who were working on the team had to quit or hide under a different name, so they had to hire, really poor non-union writers writing the episodes. So a lot of the majority of these episodes were sucking, but this was one of the better ones out of the ones that the temporary writers being hired to do this. But it did cause this wonkiness with the writing quality. So after a little bit, Fran finally convinces RJ and magic reverts him back to human form and finally cures him from the animal spirit problem. RJ decides, I need to help the Rangers. Before he left, he did grab this one case that had a purple glow in it, which is pretty much, traditionally, the dramatic moment of blah, 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 the person becoming a ranger. So RJ finally arrives on the scene and becomes the Wolf Ranger. Now, the thing that really bugs me is that who made the morpher? Why did he keep it hidden from everyone? And why didn't you help everyone from the beginning? I understand it's for a dramatic point in the series, but since RJ was already with them and basically had his powers because he controlled the animal spirit at any point in time, and the morpher was made out of thin air, he could have been a ranger at the beginning of the season and it should have been helping the other three out. It doesn't really make any sense to why he was waiting all this time. Now, RJ is a unique ranger for Super Sentai and Power Rangers. One, because he's the first purple ranger in both series. We hadn't used purple at this point until this time. And he also has a unique fighting style. He uses primarily his elbows and his knees to fight. They shoot out lasers, so everyone always nicknames RJ the laser kicker. Now, for fans of Geki Ranger, Go's design motif was, boxing. He was a kickboxer, and so his changer functions as a gong for the ring, and of course his finishers are resemblance, and his changing sequence are all a resemblance of the boxing ring. Now in RJ's case, it wouldn't really make technically any sense because he's just mainly a basic fighter and the teacher for the team. So, and all the special effect shots that they reused from Geki Ranger, they digitally removed the backgrounds, removing the boxing ring. But the thing that bugged me is they kept the gong feature on the morpher, so it's like If you kept the gong on the Morpheus, you should have kept the other graphics with the main punching finisher he uses. But unfortunately, they painted it out. So after RJ defeats the first stage of the monster fight, Monkiwi finally grows large and it fights the Jungle Fury Rangers. Now, in the point of Geki Rangers, he was taking revenge on how they almost killed him in the previous episode. That was the reason why he specifically took it on to attack Lily in this episode in order to force the transformation to fail and everyone to revert back to their animal spirit and would have been unable to fight. But conveniently enough, RJ's animal spirit fills in for a leg. So he takes Lily's temporary position and we transform into the Jungle Pride with wolf power. Now the thing I really don't like about, well, this mode is cool and all, the thing I don't like though is that every time we see the wolf from this point on, always uses Lily's spot and never like, well, I'll use Theo's spot. So it's always Lily being kicked off the team, and it's like, it doesn't seem fair to her that she's always the one who's being knocked off. It's like, it always seems to be the girl that keeps getting knocked off in transformations. Tori was knocked off transformations in Ninja Storm, and now Lily's being knocked off in transformations in Jungle Fury. What confuses me the most is that RJ is able to call the tiger and leopard animal spirits in order to find the Jungle Pride with wolf power Megazord, or in Geki Rangers, the Geki Toja wolf formation. It bugged me to no end. It's like, even in Geki Rangers, this made no sense. I thought the animal spirits are controlled by the Rangers themselves. They're in their bodies and they're the only ones who control them. They're not robots, they're not nothing that anyone can operate. So it's really bizarre that Go or RJ could control them out of nowhere. It just doesn't make any sense. So after they finish the monster off as usual, we return to Jungle Karma Pizza, where, as usual, we get a little bit of a tricky moment where we thought RJ unfortunately did transform into the wolf, and we got a full wolf, and he was permanently stuck in there. So we did get this little funny moment, but in reality, RJ was simply just babysitting a friend's dog, which ruined the whole place. But I didn't like though that RJ was like, oh, I don't care that the dog ripped up a whole bunch of pillows and ruined food and all this other stuff. I would have, even though RJ, the hippie, the calm guy, I still would have kind of gotten mad over that. I mean, it's furniture that you have to replace, so it kind of, overall, I give the episode 3 out of 5, mainly because we did have that weird moment with Fran that knocks it down, but overall the episode was pretty good. I mean, Jungle Fury does have its good moments, but there are a lot of times where Jungle Fury has really bad moments, which overall gives the season a poor rating for me. But what do you guys personally think? Do you guys really enjoy RJ for his personality that saves Jungle Fury for the most part? Or do you hate RJ and like only the other cases? Like, why is he butting in? He shouldn't be. He should just be the mentor. Mentors shouldn't be the Rangers. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys right back here next week. I thought it was kind of funny though that both times the way RJ dropped his glass, the water sprayed up in the air at the camera on both occasions. It's like, that isn't how water would act like when the glass hits. When the glass hits the floor, it'll break and the water will spread around. But since it was giving away, the reason why it's kind of annoying is because it was giving away that the glass was fake, it didn't break, and it was bouncing on the floor and everything was spraying up.